It's a new month. June is here, the first of the three warmest months of the year. So we can kind of call it summer. We've got, well, when there's fire, there's got to be smoke, and we apparently have plenty of it in the eastern part of the United States. And a geomagnetic storm watch is in effect. And Joe Rayo will be watching it right here on tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. And of course, you can support the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. Do your Amazon shopping via our referral link. It really helps us out here, keeps the show from having the live stream from having commercials. And we go sometimes for an hour or more without commercial interruption. So all you got to do is use the referral link, do your shopping on Amazon, and Amazon sends us back a little bit of coin for sending you there, and it doesn't come out of your pocket, it comes out of theirs. And we appreciate very much those of you who have done your Amazon shopping via the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. We appreciate your support. So here it's Sunday. I'm gathering, everybody's apparently up in arms here, Joe. We've got, the occasional geomagnetic storm going on, and are they going to see the northern lights? Are we not going to see the northern lights? Are the Canadians purposely burning down their forests, tying the smoke into the troughs in the east so that when I looked at the satellite loop this morning, actually it was quite amazing to see the plumes. I mean, and that just pretty much, you could have drawn the lines there to make the upper air map just based on those plumes. I mean, it was the trough in the east is it's not in the good. It's not in a spot. It's not in a good spot because it's bringing that smoke down straight from north central Canada.
There was a one time when we got into the summertime, and you would hope and you would pray that you'd get a nice, dry, cool northwesterly flow from Canada, which would lower the humidities, lower the temperatures, and clean out the air. We would get
Right.
a few days of those nice, deep blue skies that we don't often see during the summertime. Summer, of course, is a season where more often than not we have humidity, we have to deal with haze, and now it seems like now, based upon what we've seen over the last several years, northwest flows in the upper levels of the atmosphere are not a good thing anymore because they will deliver cooler and drier air. But if you want, transparent blue skies or whatever, it doesn't seem to be the case because once again, we're seeing smoke from our friends to the north, and that smoke is evident. I mean,
Oh, come on, Joe. They're doing it on purpose. I mean, they're doing it intentionally. This was planned out months ago. I'm
yeah,
just
they
I'm just reiterating some nonsense that is being expressed here and there in the confines of social media. But
well, I mean, a few days ago. I don't even remember now anymore. I think it was Thursday, or maybe Wednesday or Thursday of last week. It was beautiful. I mean, I looked around. I said, "Wow, I haven't seen the sky this blue in a very, very long time." Now I stepped outside a little while ago. A lot of the clouds have diminished, but the blue is not blue anymore. It's more like
no,
steep blue. It's nothing like what we had a couple of days ago, and it's due to the fact again that we've got those northwest winds, and
yeah,
I think there's something. And people are asking, like, why is this happening? I mean, we had such a wet month here in the east, or at least here in the northeast. We had in some cases 4, 5, 6 inches of rain that fell during the month of May. Well, while all of that was happening here in the northeast, to the west, underneath that huge ridge of high pressure, which we have spoken about on more than a few occasions, it has been bone dry. And that has set the stage for, again, the increase in brush fires and fires in general across central and northern Canada, and all of that smoke from, I think, something like 146 different, at least according to the latest log or the latest, roster of fire activity has been noted. 146 fires from central Canada. The smoke from all of that And Joe's putting it up on the screen now, just moving with the upper level winds on that curve down through the northern plains and into the Ohio Valley, and then curving back up into the Mid Atlantic and the northeastern United States.
Well, you can see that you can actually see the shortwave that's in from New England back to Western New York. That's the final part of this trough as it starts to pull out to the east. But just looking at the cloud structure, and I'll take the arrows off, but if you look at the cloud structure, and then you see the smoke plumes, which is all that milky white stuff. I mean, this trough in the east goes all the way down into Florida.
Right, that is not cirrus clouds. That is not cirriform. That is the smoke. That it can only be the smoke. I was making a comparison between the forecast for clear or transparent skies versus the actual satellite picture, and the forecasts showed none of this. I said, that's proof. There was no evidence, or hardly any evidence, that there could be high cloud cover. So what else could that possibly be except the smoke from the forest fire activity that's going on up in central and northwestern Canada?
And by the way, that started here in North Georgia. That actually started yesterday. Um, Friday, cold front came through here around midday Friday, and it's been cloudy and was cloudy and rainy all last week. So it immediately cleared out, and there was a gusty northwest wind, and the temperature dropped, and you went outside. I mean, it really felt. It's been a long time since I felt like a sense of relief like I did Friday afternoon, where all of a sudden you got deep blue sky, your dew points are down, there's a northwest wind blowing, and then uh, during Friday night and early Saturday, as this deep trough in the east took hold, and suddenly all this smoke, and you could see it coming down on Friday on the satellite loop, and then it just spread all throughout the south and southeast, and that's what we've been seeing down here. Now, if you look in eastern North Carolina, I'm sorry, eastern Tennessee and western North Carolina, there actually are some clouds there and even some lightning strikes going on. So there's some scattered thunderstorms in a very narrow band to my north, and obviously that's to your south. But there's a. I'm going to just emphasize here. I'm taking a shot. There's this plume of smoke at the moment in eastern Lake Huron that goes into western Pennsylvania and then takes a sharp right turn going straight east across Pennsylvania and over New Jersey into southern New England. But right behind it, there seems to be a gap in there where the smoke is not really all that prevalent. So that might come in later this evening or in the first part of tonight. There's like a little arm of clearing where there's no smoke. So maybe that settles over you for a few hours tonight, but there's more smoke back in Minnesota. Now, eventually, what's going to happen is this upper trough's going to pull out. The ridge is going to build across upstate New York and into southeastern Canada. So the Canadian winds are going to go basically west southwest are going to be from the west southwest across Canada, and we'll be out of this stream. Will be the upper air winds will not be in a direction that will continue to bring down smoke into the first part of next week. So the smoke will go away. You just got to get this trough out of the way.
Yes, and on the chat board, um, I just lost him now. Somebody had asked about the area around Puerto Rico. That area
That was
that you,
Alan Rupp's.
yeah,
Alan Rupa. I'm sorry, Alan Rupa.
Alan Rupa, and he's asking about the is that the that's probably down there. That's probably
Yeah,
maybe
Saharan dust. There's a lot of Saharan dust that's come off. Yeah, you could kind of see it on the lower right here.
yeah.
I got another loop here of the. I've got the dust loop, Joe, which was a gift from Mr. and Mrs. W.C. Ridgway of Hollyhock, Virginia. But here's the dust map, the dust loop, and you want to look at the pink and magenta colors because that's where the smoke is, and you can see it at the moment, or at least yeah, the last frame on this loop was just a little bit before 7 o'clock. So you see the smoke moving over Pennsylvania. West Virginia, Ohio. It's over the Great Lakes, and still coming down. Um, what you see in the reds across the deep south, that's actually cloud cover moving across the southern Gulf states. And then these orange bands that you see in North Carolina and eastern Tennessee, those are actually higher cloud tops with thunderstorms. So there you go.
Again, as I mentioned, a lot of people saying, "Why is this happening?" And over the last several summers, apparently this has been the pattern. We, over the last few summers here, have had some rather wet conditions. I don't need to explain that to somebody like Dennis Cassia. There was that one day in August of last year where his part of Connecticut picked up like 9 or 10 inches of rain in a span of just a few hours' time. That was on a Sunday. But we've had predominantly wet summers or unusually humid summers here in the east or the northeast. Meantime, out across western and central sections of North America, and especially up in northern Canada, it has been bone dry. And when it gets very, very dry, just like when it gets very dry here and we raise the red flags for the possibility of brush fires, if it remains very dry for a long period of time, as it has often been in that part of the continent, northern sections of North America, northern Canada, you get brush fires, you get forest fires that suddenly are set off. And if you get a lot of them, and as I mentioned, the latest tally has been 146 up in northern and western Canada,
Right.
um, that is going to lead to fire activity. That's going to lead to lots of smoke. And then you take the upper level winds and have that drag all that stuff down through central Canada into the United States and then swing it up and around under the trough or the persistent perennial trough that is over the Northeast and mid Atlantic. And that's where you get your dust and your smoke from. And we've had this pattern, Joe, for the last several years. I don't know if it's something that we're going to have to deal with on an annual basis now, unless something changes. But that basically is the story as to why we're seeing this again in 2025.
Okay, so let's look at it this way. So let's suppose that skies up and down the eastern seaboard are clear. Okay, forget the smoke for now. Let's just talk about the fact. Let's say that it's tonight and the smoke miraculously disappears. Skies are clear up and down the eastern seaboard. Who's going to see I mean, are there going to be northern lights? How far south are they going to go?
The shock wave from this huge solar flare that occurred back on, it actually occurred right after 8 o'clock on Friday evening. And it was such a tremendous explosion that the subatomic material was literally driven rapidly, much quicker than usual, and hit the northern and southern magnetic poles late last night. So there has been geomagnetic storming going on since late last night. When it initially arrived here, at like 1 or 2 o'clock this morning, there were places as far south as California and the Gulf coastal states that reported seeing the northern lights. Now, unfortunately, this is not something that is continuous. It doesn't continue to flow
Right.
at the same type of strength hour after hour. It vacillates, it varies. So the initial punch, so to speak, was very strong. It has since been going up and down, up and down. There's a scale. It's not like the Saffir-Simpson 0 to 5 scale. There's the planetary K index scale, which runs from 0 to 9. When it gets to 7, in the latitudes of New York, for example, you have a good shot at seeing an aurora. It has been at 7 or 8 for a while, but a few hours ago it went down to 4. Then it went back up to 7 just shortly, about an hour or two ago. But that's how it's going to be. It's going to go up
Right.
and down and down. So if it is clear, or if it were clear tonight, and you go outside and you look up, especially to the north, and you don't see anything, don't fret, because there's a very fair chance that another outburst could occur and could cause the visibility zone of the aurora to get pushed southward and allow you to see the northern lights later tonight. Again, it's not something that's continuous. It comes and goes, comes and goes. Now, if you want to try to see it better, use your smartphone and put it on night mode. so that you can maybe take a photograph or at least view the screen on your camera, because a lot of times the camera will bring out the faint colorations of an aurora. So even though it may not be evident immediately to your own naked eye, you might be
Right.
able to see it on the camera because the camera brings in that light a little bit better. But again, put it on night mode. Your iPhone. There's the best chance will be tonight. I don't really think that we'll have a chance tomorrow night, even if it were clear, because we're asking a little bit too much. Most aurora activity doesn't last much more than 24 hours, unless you have an extreme case. This is not really an extreme case, but it's enough so that they were able to see the aurora early this morning before sunrise in southern parts of the United States, and it may linger into tonight. But I really don't think by tomorrow night it'll still be going on, but it'll be in a much weaker form, and I don't think we would be able to see it from, let's say, mid-northern latitudes. You'd have to go back up to where the aurora normally would be visible, Alaska or central or northern Canada. And they're
Okay.
not seeing it anyway up there either because they probably have too much smoke.
All right. Welcome tonight to everybody on the chat board, and to those of you watching in the background. Welcome on this Sunday night Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. We're here Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time, and the occasional Friday and Saturday in case there's a storm around. Otherwise, those are usually off days for us. So subscribe, turn your notifications on, and this way you don't miss us. And of course, if you like the show, hit the like button. And for those of you who are shy, join in on the conversation that goes on every night on our chat board here. You can leave questions, comments, make new friends. Who knows? Meet Mr. Right or Mrs. Right, and you never know. But no matter. Uh, well, stranger things have happened. This could be the Tinder of uh, of podcasts. Who knows? The warnings and watches map tonight. There's not a whole lot happening, although I find it pretty interesting that across northern Pennsylvania and across the counties of southern New York back to the Catskills, you actually have frost advisories up for tonight, which is evident to how cool this air mass is. And here we are at June 1st. One severe thunderstorm watch box is up. That's in East Texas, oriented northeast southwest. There's some flood watches up for a bunch of counties in southern Arizona. And that really is about it. We don't have any heat advisories up anywhere, so that's good. And as we saw on the satellite loop, again, I'll just bring this back, the full U.S. There are some thunderstorms breaking out across parts of Colorado and New Mexico and into Wyoming and Montana. That's where all the lightning strikes are. And then there's this band that's running through East Texas, and also this narrow area from eastern Tennessee into North Carolina. But so other than the smoke, which is this milky white that you see, actually, for the most part, the weather east of the Rockies today has been fairly good. And here's the radar. There are a couple of showers showing up in areas around Binghamton and the Catskills, northeastern Pennsylvania. There are a couple of clusters there moving southeastward. They may survive for another hour or two, but then they should disappear once we get past sunset. And then you can see the showers and storms moving through eastern North Carolina and a few scattered cells back in western North Carolina and in northeastern Tennessee. Otherwise, radars are pretty quiet down into Florida. And then, of course, you've got this mess in the west. The showers and storms and some severe thunderstorm boxes are up in parts of Colorado, right along I-25, including 3 severe thunderstorm warnings as of 7:55 p.m. Eastern Time in and around the city of Denver. And I think these are the remnants of Alvin, or the tropical moisture that was with the tropical storm Alvin in the Pacific, now moving into southern Arizona, where we have the flash flood watches up. And actually, there's a fairly large area of moderate to even heavy rain that is moving northward into the Phoenix area. So a lot of moisture, a little bit unusual, but it's there. A lot of moisture in the southwestern part of the United States. The Storm Prediction Center has a slight risk going on in East Texas, a bunch of areas of marginal risk in the Rockies, another area from Tennessee to North Carolina, another area in southernmost Florida. the Northeast, the northern Mid-Atlantic, back to the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, and the upper Mississippi Valley into the Central Plains. No thunderstorms forecast through tomorrow morning. Now, tomorrow, the risk area expands in the Western Plains from northwest Texas up into South Dakota and southwestern Minnesota. And that's a slight risk for severe weather. Small area of 2% tornado risk, northeast Colorado, southwest Nebraska, northwesternmost Kansas. And day three, we have an area of marginal to slight risk from south central Texas northeastward through Oklahoma and Missouri into eastern Iowa, into Wisconsin, Illinois, northern Michigan, and no thunderstorms for pretty much all of the east except for the Gulf Coast and down into Florida. And as far as rainfall is concerned this week, not a whole lot. Um, I was thinking, from what I was looking at today, Mr. Rayo, that much of this week is going in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states anyway, is going to be dry, certainly through Wednesday. Thursday, you start to throw in the chance maybe for some thunderstorms in upstate New York and maybe for central and northern New England. But I think downstate New York and points south will still be dry on Thursday. And it may not be, it may stay that way until late Friday. And the other thing is, it's going to get warm this week. We're going to see temperatures that are going to be headed up. I think got a shot for 90-degree highs maybe on Wednesday.
Well, I thought that yesterday. I said I actually put a high on my Facebook forecast of 91 for Wednesday. I've kind of pulled back a little bit on that. I'm saying 85 on Wednesday. The hot weather and I agree with you. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday is going to be, uh, in a word, muggy. The dew point temperatures are likely to get to at or above 60 on those days. I think we'll hit 90 on Thursday, and maybe upper and middle 80s, because the heat will be tempered somewhat by clouds and the risk of a few widely scattered showers. I think the best chance, though, Joe, will probably be sometime either later Friday or into early Saturday. And if a front that next weekend moves or has just enough oomph, so to speak, to move on through, perhaps by next Sunday, we will be dealing with somewhat cooler temperatures and also somewhat less humid weather. But indeed, I think later this week, watch out. The humidity and the heat are a coming to the Northeast, and for the first time, actually. And it'll be short lived. It's not going to be a prolonged or protracted spell of unbearable or uncomfortable heat and humidity, but it'll be around for later on in the week and for the start of next weekend.
I got the digital forecast up on the screen, and let me make sure these are the latest. They actually lowered the temperatures for Wednesday a little bit. They have mostly middle and upper 80s for
Right.
Wednesday, for southern New England, right down through New Jersey, down to Maryland and Delaware. I'm just looking up a little bit further north. I mean, middle to upper 80s going all the way up into New Hampshire and middle 80s into Maine. So, that's Wednesday. And then we look at Thursday. Now, Thursday, the digital forecast has low 90s. It has 88 for LaGuardia, but it's got 91 for, I'm not sure what that station is that they've got. I don't know if that's White Plains or not. If it's White Plains, they got it in the wrong place. But they've got low 90s in northeast New Jersey, and they got a 91 at Poughkeepsie. They got low 90s going up into Massachusetts, and even some 90-degree highs pushing up into New Hampshire. So that's for Thursday. That's on the digital forecast from the Weather Service, and also near 90-degree highs or even some lower 90s in the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area. I'm just kind of curious about the dew points. I just want to take a look here. Not that I don't believe you, Joe, but just want to check to see what they're forecasting. And on the dew points, so for Thursday, they've got dew points. Yeah, I mean, low 60s at 8 a.m. and at 2 p.m., mostly low 60s, a couple of places 64, 65. On Wednesday, I'm just going backwards here. On Wednesday, the dew points are still kind of upper 50s to around 60-ish, which is not terrible.
Yeah, Tom Contino does ask a good question on the chat board. He says, if the smoke lingers all week, won't the high temperatures be compromised? And I would suppose that the smoke, if it continues into mid and late week, may attenuate or diminish the sunlight enough to maybe lower the temperatures. See, these forecasts, these projections of temperatures do not take into account such things as smoke that's produced by forest fires. So this is these numbers are basically based upon a relatively clean atmosphere. But if you do add the smoke, yeah, there may be it may lower the temperatures not by a whole heck of a lot, but a few degrees. So let's say temperatures were flirting on Thursday with 90 at New York City Central Park. The smoke may be enough to keep the temperatures from reaching 90, maybe by a degree or two or three. And the other thing that we pointed out last week, Joe, is the fact that because the ridge is building across the Great Lakes and up into central and northern New England, places in upstate New York and portions of New England may actually be hotter than places further south, like let's say along the southern New England coast, New York, northern New Jersey. You may get hotter temperatures as you go north later on in the week, as opposed to what you normally would expect because of that building ridge of high pressure.
Yeah. The only thing is, I've just noticed. I just pulled up the upper air on the European, and it's sort of backed off on the idea of like the upper high being in upstate New York. I mean, the greatest height rises are up in northeast southeastern Canada. I mean, effectively, you relative to the normal, you're going to have bigger anomalies as you go north as opposed to as going south. Either way, the biggest anomalies are going to be up in Maine and New Hampshire, Vermont, and points northward, which even if their temperatures are the same as the areas in the mid-Atlantic states and into southern New England, upper 80s to mid to upper 80s in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, Delaware, and Virginia is above normal for this time of year. But mid to upper 80s in northern New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, and southeastern Canada is a lot above normal. So, relatively speaking, yes, it's going to be hotter, to the person to the north than it is going to be to the south.
And on my excuse me, on my
And by the way,
screen,
the other thing I would point out to just real quick, I'm sorry, the upper trough pulls out on Monday. So once that happens, the winds go southwest from Southern California across northern Texas and then go northeast from there. So the smoke will probably get deflected across eastern Canada and not unless the southern end of it gets far enough south, I suppose. But I'm still going to stick by the idea that once the trough pulls out, the smoke issues will more than likely disappear.
and on my screen, I'm sharing right now the an interesting 6 to 10 day temperature outlook from the Climate Prediction Center. Should have brought a glass of water down with me for all of a sudden. Um, and I call it unusual because right smack in the middle of the nation, there's an area of below normal temperatures, and meanwhile, above normal probabilities for temperatures are in the west and also in the east. And I'm not quite sure why they're doing that or
Trough
why
in the
they
middle. Trough in the middle.
that is it a trough or is it a closed? I guess it is a trough.
Well, it's a trough in the. It's normal and below normal heights. It's not sharp troughing. There's gentle troughing in the middle, and you got ridges basically on both coasts.
See
But
here they have,
it's not any kind of, at least on the European, it's not any kind of wrapped up cutoff or anything like that.
and you can see here that they have above normal precipitation overlying that area of below normal temperatures. In fact, the main area of above normal precip stretches from eastern sections of Oklahoma and northeast Texas all the way across to the Carolinas. That's apparently where they're anticipating. And let me tell you something. if there's one part of the country that really does not need any more rainfall, it's this zone right here. Actually, it's shifted a little further to the south because places like in eastern Missouri, Kentucky, for example, and also into portions of the Virginias, where they've seen far more rain than they really need to see. And now all of it looks like the projection now over the next 6 to 10 days is for above normal precip in this zone here. And it's even above normal, well, leaning toward above normal into the northeastern United States for the period
Yeah.
from June 7th through the 11th. And if you want to look even further ahead, here is the 8 to 14 day outlook. Wait a minute, hang on for a second. There you go. Still have that trough apparently giving below normal conditions in the nation's midsection, but still above normal along the east coast and out in the western United States. And if you're wondering about precipitation, 8 to 14 days, still have above normal across much of the southeastern United States, near normal, maybe trying to dry things out a little bit in the northeastern U.S., and fully below normal out here in Northern California, Northern Nevada, Idaho, Oregon, and also in Washington State.
By the way, Brandon Doherty, thank you for hitting the tip jar tonight. It is most appreciated. Uh, yeah, you just talk about rain in the southeast. I mean, I had 10 inches of rain last month. Uh, the average is about 3.5. So that was a lot of rain. And yeah, I could use a break, particularly since I'm taking the grandkids out fishing on Saturday. So I don't want any rain on Saturday. But as far as what we see on the European surface, of course, everything as far as shower and thunderstorm activity and severe weather is concerned is going to be in the plains and eventually into the upper Midwest. And you see how it lines up there on Tuesday. Some rather active thunderstorms from Texas all the way up into Wisconsin. We've got a high right along the North Carolina coast and a southwest wind. And that high just kind of sits there. And gradually, there is a weather front that pushes into upstate New York on Thursday and does trigger off some showers and storms, pretty much, I guess, along the I-90 corridor and points north. But it doesn't make it further south. The ridge is still holding on. It's going to have to wait for an impulse that goes into western New York on Friday. That probably stands a better chance of bringing some showers and thunderstorms maybe late Friday night and on Saturday. And you see them there on the
Joe,
European.
if you're trying to show maps, there aren't any.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to switch. You were sharing. All right, so let's go back. My fault. There you go. Um, so let me just run back. I'll just run really quick. You see it again. There's, well, you didn't see it the first time, so I'll see it again. But there's the severe weather on Tuesday. Also, some heavy weather over central and south Florida for much of this coming week. The front goes up to the north on Thursday. Again, maybe mainly along the I-90 corridor and then back over into Ohio, Illinois, and Indiana. And then Friday, late Friday, Friday night into Saturday, as another front approaches and just kind of takes its sweet time going through, would indicate maybe some showers and storms. And then weather conditions improve after that. But as Joe pointed out, it's above normal precip in the southeast. So a break in the southeast through Tuesday. And then we start to get into Thursday. There's actually a little low that forms off the Florida coast there that kind of wobbles to off the South Carolina coast. Nothing spectacular here, but bringing up some moisture. But the latter part of this week and maybe going into next weekend might get a little busier as far as shower and storm activity in the southeast and in parts of the deep south. Don't see the European showing anything tropical, although I'm sure the GFS probably has a wrapped up hurricane someplace. So I think for laughs, we'll take a look at that, see if it does. I know it did on one run yesterday there it is. It never fails. There's always one there. So here we go. This would be hour 252. So we're talking 11 days from now. Something coming out of the Caribbean, moving into the western Gulf of Mexico, and heading toward Houston as a strong tropical storm or minimal hurricane. Okay, sure. Let's remember, folks, these models are going to do this, and the rule is, especially the GFS, the rule is um, we'll take it serious when the European starts to show it, and that's basically how we approach things here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast because we're here Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. I got myself a shameless self promotion in the meantime.
Yeah.
Uh, there's the chairman, Scott Briller, who provides us with Briller Jeopardy on an almost nightly basis, is taking a vacay. So he's not going to be back for about a week. So he'll be back on June 9th. So there's
Look, you took a week
there's no
off.
Briller Jeopardy.
Everybody has an
I'm
opportunity, or
sorry.
everybody take some time off. And
But he
Scott,
does, it's great. He takes a lot of time and he does the research. It takes a lot of time, to put the clues to get the questions together. So we certainly do appreciate that.
I mean,
Um,
Scott was very busy during the pandemic, helping people out, and of course, he was also helping his mom out until she passed away
right.
uh, really recently. So this is a guy who I know probably deserves a bit of a break, and
Yeah.
so
I,
when we get
I
him
told him
back,
to just go and just zone out and have a good time,
exactly.
and that's what he's going to do. And I guess we're good here. So we'll be back to. Actually, are you here tomorrow no? Tomorrow you're
Yes,
not here, right?
I will be here. I will be here tomorrow night.
Oh, okay.
Explain just to explain to everybody, and if anybody is in the immediate Hudson Valley area, I have been asked by the I think the Westchester Symphonic Society. Believe it or not, they're going to have a special charity benefit at Sleepy Hollow High School next Sunday. I believe it starts at 5 o'clock, and they came to me back in March and I said, you don't want me to play an instrument. I used to play actually a violin with actually somebody who used to know quite well, Joe, a young lady by the name of Jeanette Graff.
Hmm.
She was at Junior High School 101, and she and I were in the orchestra, and we both played violin. Now, don't ask me to play violin. It's been God knows how many years, decades, since I even attempted playing the violin. I wouldn't be able to do it. But when this symphonic society approached me and said we're having a charity benefit, I said, well, you don't want me to play an instrument. Said no. What they're going to do, this is very interesting. The entire orchestra is going to play kind of like a baseball type theme music, and meanwhile, I'm going to be on the stage with them reciting the poem. I don't know if it's a poem or the lyrics of Casey at the Bat. And of course, many of you probably know about Casey at the Bat. The Mudville Nine. They were desperate to try to win. They were down to their final out. Here comes Casey. Everybody's cheering because Casey is such a great hitter, like Juan Soto. But anyway, he comes to the plate. He takes two strikes. He says, "Don't worry." People are screaming, "Kill the umpire, fraud!" Don't worry about it, Casey says, and he stands up there and he waits. And it ends with somewhere in this land, the skies are bright. Somewhere in this land, people are singing, but there's no joy in Mudville. Mighty Casey has struck out. Anyway, I'm going to be reciting that, and as I'm reciting those lines, the orchestra behind me is going to be playing appropriate music, and so they said we'd love to have you. We'd love to have I guess after 9 years of not being on News 12 and 6 years or 7 years of not being on FiOS, people still remember who I am because they specifically said we want Joe Rayo to do this. So next Sunday,
You're
and
like
it's
Ethel May Potter. They never forgot her.
exactly. So it's a charity. I said, well, so how much are you charging for tickets? If you want to come, you're welcome to come. You don't have to pay anything, but they would like a donation for the school and for the orchestra and whatever else they're collecting money for. So if you're interested, again, Sleepy Hollow High School next Sunday, 5 p.m., and yours truly will be out there. I'm not sure yet whether or not I'm going to wear a dark suit or a tuxedo, because everybody on the stage, everybody in the orchestra is going to be, all dressed up. So I got to look dressed up as well for this, I guess. And we were gonna have a rehearsal tomorrow night. They called that off, and they're gonna have a full dress rehearsal next Saturday. So I will be part of that next Saturday morning, and then Sunday, 5 o'clock is the main show, and I'll mention it again a couple of times between now and next week.
All right. And on that note, we will see everybody. Brandon Doherty said, "Do you have if you can, um, a list of donation links?"
Yeah, like I said, I specifically asked. I said I can put this on all my social media platforms and promote it. How much are you asking? And the response back was, we're not asking for anything. We just would expect or would hope that whoever comes through the door, they give a donation.
Okay.
The donation could be 50 cents. It could be $100. I don't know, but whatever you'd like to donate to this affair. I think this is the 20th anniversary that this musical company, has been in business, and so whatever you can give, give.
Okay. All right. So we'll see everybody tomorrow night at 7:35. Night night.
Good night, folks.